All right, short answer, question 1. Which is smaller, the diameter of a small bacteria or the diameter of the nucleus of a nucleus? So I've highlighted that in the table. Diameter of a small bacteria is 10 to the negative 6 versus the diameter of a nucleus, which is 10 to the negative 14. Negative 14 is smaller, so the diameter of the nucleus is smaller. And by how much? The difference in those powers is 8. So 10 to the power 8 is how much smaller it is. Some have written that as it is 1 divided by 10 to the power of 8 the size. I've accepted that as an answer. However, the first one is more correct because it asks which is smaller and by how much. So the how much is the 10 to the power of 8. So 2 marks, 1 for the nucleus and 1 for the 10 to the power of 8. Part B, approximately how many times larger is the thickness of a bacteria compared to the radius of a hydrogen atom. So my thickness of a bacteria is 10 to the negative 8. The radius of a hydrogen atom is 10 to the negative 11. Because I want to know how many times larger, this is a division. So we take our bacteria and we divide it by the hydrogen atom. So 10 to the negative 8 divided by 10 to the negative 11. And this gives me a result of 10 to the power of 3. Because we want an approximate, let's just expand that out. So we get 1,000 times larger. The next question is looking at how many ice or quartz cells could be lined up touching side by side along the length of a dust mite. So in this particular question, the ice or quartz cells is 10 to the negative 10. Dust mite is 10 to the negative 4. We want to know how many of those ice or those cells fit into the dust mite. So again, it's a division. 10 to the negative 4 divided by 10 to the negative 2 gives me 10 to the power of 6. I would expand that because 10 to the power of 6 isn't a real answer for how many. So I would write that as 1,000,000 ice or quartz cells would fit along the line or would fit side by side along the length of a dust mite, basically. So marks there, 1 for the answer and 1 for some kind of working. So 10 to the negative 4 divided by 10 to the negative 2 would be working. If you did negative 4 plus minus negative 10, that would be working. So you could do it using orders of magnitude. Just any kind of working for that would give you an extra mark. Part D, what's the thickness of a US dime in millimetres? And then I want that written in, as a basic numeral. So thickness of a US dime is 10 to the negative 3. And then that needs to be written in millimetres. So what I've done here is I've taken 10 to the negative 3, times it by 10 cubed, and that will convert what we had, which was metres, into millimetres. That gives me a result of 10 to the power of 0, which is just 1 millimetre. Anything to the power of 0 is 1. So working for this is recognising this is what my metres answers is. Then some kind of conversion is worth a mark. So your conversion might go wrong, but as long as you have this 10 to the power of 3 somewhere, or you could write it as 1,000, that would be fine as well. And then getting out your end answer is also worth a mark. All right, E, determine the name of the item that is 100,000 times larger than the wavelength of X-rays, and then show a working. So 100,000, converting that is 10 to the power of 5. And then the wavelength of X-rays is 10 to the power of negative 2. And that's all the information you need to be able to do this. We are looking for something that is 10 to the power of 5 times larger, which means that if I take my power of negative 12 from X-rays and I add 5, I get negative 7. So 10 to the power of negative 7 is 10 to the power of 5 times larger than 10 to the power of negative 12. So the distance is going to be 10 to the negative 7, and if you look at the table, this corresponds to the length of a virus. To get you 2 marks for this, the answer is 1 mark. Your second mark comes from some sort of calculation in here. There's different ways to do it. I've seen people use shift of decimal points, that's fine, just as long as there's some kind of working showing how you're getting the answer of a length of a virus. Alright, question 2. This question was done pretty poorly all round, and the reason was because people didn't read this top key. So 10 decibels is 10 to the power of 1, 20 decibels is 10 to the power of 2. Consequently, what this would mean is that something like 130 decibels is 10 to the power of 13. A lot of people tried to change these into scientific notation and things just went wrong. So for part A, what is the order of magnitude of a jet engine? We look for the jet engine. So the jet engine is 160 decibels. And we then change that into our 10 to the power notation. So 10 to the power of 16, which means that the order of magnitude is then 16. B, using the comparison of magnitudes, so that is something you have to do to get your full marks. Approximately how much louder is the high speed express train there as compared to a busy street? Alright, so in this particular case, the train has an order of magnitude of 10.5, so converting 105 to 10 to the power of 10.5 gives me an order of magnitude 10.5. The busy street is 10 to the power of 6, which means order of magnitude of 6. The comparison of magnitudes is this line here. So unless you've got some kind of comparison of magnitudes, you can't get full marks for this. And then because this asks for an approximate, I don't want 10 to the power of 4.5, I want a solution to that. So your answer is 31,622.78 times. You might have rounded this differently, and that's fine if you did. But yeah, 2 marks, 1 for the answer, 1 for the comparison of magnitudes. Part C, which environmental noise is 1/1000th of the threshold of painful sounds. So the threshold of painful sounds is at 130 decibels. So we can convert 1/1000th to 10 to the negative 3. Looking at our orders of magnitudes there, we have -3 here and 13 here, which means -3 plus 13 is equal to 10. 10 to the power of 10 is 100 decibels. And then this can then be converted into an automobile. So 100 decibels is an automobile. Marks for that question is again an answer and then some kind of working to get your second answer for it. Okay, last part, so D. If a motorcycle at 30 feet is 10 to the power of 8.8 times louder than the threshold of audibility, how loud in decibels is a motorcycle? So the threshold of audibility is at 0, which means that if we convert this to decibels, so 8.8 times 10, we can get out a result of 88 decibels. Basically, 2 marks, 1 for the answer, 1 for some kind of conversion. So 8.8 times 10, for instance, would be the second mark. Or it's about the only way you can do it. There are maybe a few different ways, but that's your main way to get your second mark. Last question, which is 3. So a store discounts a particular brand of television. The original price is $899 and it sells for $764. We need to calculate the percentage discount and give that answer to the nearest percent. That's a big one. You can lose a mark if you don't do that. So first thing is we need to know what's the dollar discount? So the original was $8.99 minus the selling price, $7.64, to give $135. So the savings or the discount was $135. So the discount divided by the original times 100 will give you the percentage discount. So 135 divided by 899 times 100 would give you 15%, or it would be just off that, but we would round it to the nearest percentage of 15. Marks, some kind of formula to work this out or method to work this out. So there's a working mark attached to this, and then an answer mark. If your answer is not in the correct format, i.e. nearest percent, then you wouldn't get full marks. Part B, a group of 3 people share a sum of 1,200 in a ratio of 5 to 3 to 8. How much does each person receive? Okay, basically we need to know how many parts there are in total. So if we add together 5, 3 and 8, we get 16. So there are 16 parts in total, which means if I take my total sum, the 1,200, and divide it by 16, I get 75. So each part is worth 75. Now the first person has 5 parts, so 5 times 75. The second person has 3 parts, so 3 times 75. And the third person has 8 parts, so 8 times 35, which gives me out a result of 375 to 225 to 600. The other way to look at this, if you're getting maybe a little bit confused, is that if I add together 5 and 3, I get 8. So this could be thought of as 8 to 8, and that would mean that they've got equal shares. So if they've got equal shares, then half of 1,200 is 600. So the 8 portion is worth 600, and the 5 to 3 is worth 600, and you can nut it out from that. It's just another way to look at it, or to check to make sure you've got the right answer. Part C, a painter uses 24 litres of paint in a single day. How much paint in millilitres would the painter use in 5 days? And give your answer in basic numeral showing all working. So there's not actually much working to show, but there is some. So 24 litres in a single day, and our end answer is going to be in millilitres, so I'm going to convert it here. You could actually do all your calculations and then convert it afterwards. That's up to you. So I've converted my 24 litres and I've got 24,000 millilitres, and I'm interested in 5 days worth of paint. So I'm going to take that result, times it by 5 to give out 120,000 millilitres used in 5 days. My marks for this, one for an answer that's in millilitres, not in millilitres, you won't get the mark. And then the second one is for your working, which is pretty much this line here, 24,000 times 5. That's pretty much your working line. You could kind of count this as working as well. So one or the other or both would give you your working marks for this question. It's up to you now to tally up your paper and have a look at the front of your sheet. We've tallied it into multiple choice and into short answer. See how yours compares to our mark. If they differ, significantly differ or minorly differ, have a chat with your teacher and we can negotiate your marks and see what it should be. Thanks.